Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. When Adam asked me to come speak here today, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to talk about. After all, I love Tested. I love talking about science and skepticism, critical thinking, but I don't have any spider death bots. I don't even have much knowledge of flags, so I wasn't really sure. But I wanted to bring something new to the table, and I noticed that the whole team behind Tested are all men, and they tend to focus on areas that do tend to also be dominated by men. And so I thought that it makes sense for me to come here and represent lady stuff. Ladies, thank you. I am a lady, but I am terrible at being a lady, at least the way that society expects me to be a lady. For instance, I need to use an app on my phone to tell me when I get my period. That's right, kids in the audience, I'm talking about menstruation, and there's nothing you can do about it, nowhere to escape to. My period has been happening at the same time every month for 20 years, but I still need a pop-up to interrupt my 2048 game to prevent a horror story from 17 Magazine's Trauma-Rama from happening. So yeah, I'm not very good at my period. What's weird though, I realized is that if Chipotle offered me a free burrito on the same day every month for 20 years, I would know magically a week before it happened, and I would clear my lunch schedule for those 4 days, and I would not need a burrito tracking app. Also, I'm 34 years old, and I've just recently discovered makeup. I spend a good portion of my time watching teenagers on YouTube apply their makeup, and then I do it to myself, but I always look like Michael Keaton in Batman. Or depending on how steady my hand is, maybe Beetlejuice. Always Michael Keaton, though. It's a weird problem. And in addition to being naturally bad at traditional lady things, I also partake in a lot of activities that are generally, traditionally at least, seen as man things, like owning my own business, or talking about science and critical thinking and how there's probably no such thing as a Bigfoot, surprisingly male-dominated industry. And also playing video games. I happen to be one of the world's greatest FTL players. If you don't know what FTL is, then you probably have friends and family members that you spend quality time with. And I congratulate you for that. I should mention that my boyfriend made a note here. He said that I should say self-appointed greatest FTL player in the world. But he has no idea what he's talking about because he's never found the crystal ship on normal difficulty. That's right. Of course, there's nothing inherent in video games that makes them a man hobby, just like there's nothing inherent in women that makes us unable to enjoy them. And in fact, women have been playing and enjoying video games for just as long as men have. And before you blame our poor lady brains, I should mention that the psychological and neurological research thus far tells us that there is no biological basis for any difference between men and women's video game capabilities. The problem, science! No, the problem is, in fact, a societal problem. Many men, unfortunately, assume that games are their domain, and so they develop games with other men as the stars, and they presume that these games will have a male audience playing them, particularly straight white men. Over the years, I've rescued thousands of helpless digital women. I've seen thousands of pixelated breasts on sex workers dancing in the backgrounds of games. I've sighed as the few female characters I've been allowed to play have, at some point in the game, had to take off their clothes for some important reason. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoyed a lot of those games. But a part of me always wished that the game industry would change and mature and get better. And I'm not the only woman who has had these thoughts. And more of them are speaking up, like Anita Sarkeesian, who is an awesome games critic. Yeah. There are people like her who are out there criticizing games. There are also people like Zoe Quinn who are out there developing their own games to fill that niche. Unfortunately, we come back to the societal problem of men assuming that games are their domain. And so we have last week, Anita Sarkeesian had to cancel a speaking event because a man threatened to murder her and the other women on her college campus where she was speaking. Zoe Quinn and other women have been driven from their homes because of similar death threats and having their addresses being posted online. I'm actually very lucky that in the few years that I've been an outspoken woman online, I have had only a few death threats that I've had to report to the FBI. A few months ago, my home address in Buffalo, New York was posted on the internet by people who hate me, but joke's on them, I just moved to San Francisco. So basically, I was driven out of my home in the awesomest way possible. I live on a beach now. Also, I should mention that gamers did create a change.org petition to have me banned from Bay Area Science Festival. 500 people signed it. They were unsuccessful. But what is it about Anita and Zoe and these other women that make some men think that they need to silence us, sometimes with actual threats? After all, aren't we just gamers who are talking about games and trying to make them better? Well, when I was a kid, I learned that if you love something, you should set it free, and if it comes back to you, then it was meant to be. But early on, I decided that that was a crap motto to live by, and that a better idea is, if you love something, subject it to skeptical inquiry. And if it stands up to valid criticism, it was meant to be. It's not as snappy, but I think it works. I've used that mantra while, for instance, reading books, which made me realize that Isaac Asimov writes women as though he had never actually met one. Seriously, there's one woman in the first Foundation book, and all she talks about is jewelry and murder. I've used that mantra while watching films, which made me realize that George Clooney and Sandra Bullock could never jump from the Hubble to the ISS using nothing but a jetpack. I mean, they are like 1,000 kilometers apart in orbit. And I've also used that mantra in past relationships to realize that the guy I was dating was codependent, and worse yet, a magician. I don't love things blindly. Knowing the flaws actually only helps deepen my love and make it realer. And so I really love Isaac Asimov's body of work, despite the fact that his sentient robots are more realistic than his women. And I still love the film Gravity, despite the scientific inaccuracies. And I don't, not the boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend. I don't love him anymore. But I do love video games, and so I apply a critical eye to them. Could they be better? Could they represent a better diversity of people and experiences? If they can teach me things like what it's like to be stranded on an alien planet as a space marine, maybe they could teach me what it's like to be a lesbian teenager in the 90s, or what it's like to be a depressed person just trying to get to work, or what it's like to be the world's worst bomb diffuser. Am I right, Norm? And the answer is yes, they can do all those things. Video games, even more than films and other artistic media, can offer you an immersive way to learn and grow and empathize with others. They can also help you blow off a bit of steam murdering some aliens. Both of those things can happen, although maybe not at the same time. The problem is that not everyone likes to think critically about the things they love. In fact, many people live by the opposite mantra, to love the things they love without ever imagining that they could possibly not be perfect. And why wouldn't they think that? I mean, our entire culture tells them that all the time. We talk about how there's love at first sight and how love is blind and love is unconditional. Love means never having to say you're sorry. Well, screw that. Love means saying you're sorry early and often. If we all of us, the nerds and the geeks and the makers and the doers of things, if we just accept the idea that the things we love are not off limits to criticism, then I think it's going to result in a better world, a world with more joy, with more interesting conversations, with less extremism, with more people of both genders who will understand that there are no lady things and there are no man things. There are just things. And we can share those things and we can enjoy them and use them to develop a better understanding of both ourselves and the world around us. Now, if you'll excuse me, Civilization Beyond Earth just came out and I really need to go murder some aliens. Thank you.